Hi, YouTube. This is Ed Powers, and it's not Good Times with Weapons anymore. I've done a Google search and I found out that there are a lot of people calling their page Good Times with Weapons, so I'm going to stop doing that. Don't have a name for my channel other than my own name, and when I get a chance and I think of something that's appropriate, I will change the name to that. Okay, so today's topic is single stick versus saber training with a stick. And I want to talk about this because I've been watching quite a few YouTube videos, seen a video shared on Facebook by one of the people I follow, in which people are using saber techniques in training with a stick. And it's not a bad thing. That's actually a legitimate Hema thing to do. Around about the 1900s, there was a U.S. provisional manual that came out and said this is how you train a saber when you don't have a saber and you need to use a stick. You want to do this, this, and this. And I'm going to put a link to that provisional manual because I think there's a lot of cool stuff in there if you're interested in saber. Some good training. You could do some very simplistic training. And when you're training on your own at a distance, simplicity is key. And that's whether you're training sword, pugilism, or grappling. Simplicity is key when you're training on your own. Because you need, in order to be an effective self-defense system, it has to be simple, or you have to train with a partner. And if you can't train with a partner, ergo, you must train the simplicity. So, what is the difference between saber training with a stick and single stick training? Well, for one, saber training with a stick is going to teach you cuts, and you're going to be seeing people performing cuts. That is going to show people using mollies, a lot of wrist action, cuts from the wrist, and circles from the wrist, and defenses from the wrist. Now, you can still use your defensive techniques and parries from the wrist, particularly if you're in a narrow situation and you have to use a rapier style block in thrust instead of an actual cut, because you just don't have the height or the room to cut. You have to stick with thrust, and you should train thrusts and defensive in that kind of small context, just to give yourself a well-rounded self-defense system with a stick. The other thing you're going to see is a basket hilt made for the stick. Now, single stick training and you make a basket hilt to protect your hand, that's okay. But as long as you're not performing cuts, you're performing strikes. Now, what's the difference? A cut is going to strike and then come back purposely to cut. That's a cut. That's a draw cut. A strike is just, I'm going to come straight down and I'm going to bash your skull in. I mean, it's just a straightforward bam, and the fact that you are retracting your hand is just because of the natural arc in which your body moves. And I think a cut should pretty much follow the natural arc of your body movement instead of being forced. Now, some people who are fencing experts are going to write back on that, and I hope you do. I hope you do make a comment and start to add to and contribute to the channel through your comments. That would be really great. So what type of sword techniques should you use? Well, saber techniques that involve at least the elbow. Well, from what I have looked at and seen that translates better to single stick defense is English backsword. And there is a man out there who does English backsword and a channel. It's called Learn English Martial Arts, and I'm going to put a link to his channel, and you should probably subscribe to it because I do, and I watch his videos, particularly concerning English backsword. And the other thing you want to look for is Bartitsu, cane or Bartitsu style uses of the cane or the walking stick. Those are going to be better off than using saber techniques that come from the wrist. And this is important. Why is it so important? Well, because you're learning how to defend yourself. That's the main objective of learning a martial art. Yes, there are benefits of different spiritual aspects and mental aspects and physical training, and there is also the academic preservation of something historical. That's pretty cool too. I like that. That's nothing wrong with doing that. But I'm looking for a self-defense system, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too. If you're looking for a self-defense system, you have to be able to defend yourself. It has to be effective. It has to strike, and your attacker needs to know that from that very first hit that they made a mistake in messing with you, that you have backed them away, so that you're able to make your escape or you're further able to do what you have to do. And if you're using an improper technique because you've been training saber using a stick instead of single stick, well, then you're going to be in trouble, and you're going to develop a false sense of security, because you're going to go to that person and you're going to say, hey, I've done a number one movement. Uh-oh, why isn't he done? Why haven't I broken the collarbone? By the way, when you go do your one and your twos, this is where you're going for the collarbone. You want to break that collarbone, or you want to hit the head. You want to give a good crack on the head, or you want to break that collarbone. Doing a 3 and a 4, you're too horizontal, they're basically useless. You're going to be hitting the outside of the arm. That's a pretty meaty area and could take a lot of punishment. But your high cut, your cut coming from above, depending on what broadsword target you're using, the numbers are always different. Some of them are broken down into 8, 9, even 10 sometimes. So let's reiterate what I want to try and say, or review what I want to try and say. Don't train single stick as you are a saber. There is a difference between single stick and using a stick to train for saber, and you should really research that and look that up on your own, or think about what it is you're doing. Is this movement, is this training going to be effective on the street, or is it going to lead me into trouble, get me into a problem, or am I purely doing this for academic purposes only? And until then, be safe, good training, and have a